Hello guys and welcome to another episode of Wave Work Stress Goodbye with me, Luke Richardson. If you're new to the show, welcome. I really appreciate you taking the time out for 10 to 15 minutes to listen to me. If you're a regular listener, I'm really humbled and really do appreciate you listening again. But I've had a few emails recently from people praising the show and also actually wanting to be on the podcast, which, is extremely... To say I've only started this journey in August doing podcasts, it's really humbling and heartfelt to hear people are enjoying this show that I'm doing and actually want to be on it as a guest. So thank you to everyone, from listeners to potential guests, who are praising the show and sending me emails and messages. If you want to do the same, feel free to send me one. I'd love to hear from you. Now, let's get on with today's episode then. So today's episode is called When Switching Off Feels Impossible Without a Drink. Now, before we get our hands dirty, this episode's obviously about alcohol. And I just want to make it clear before we go further that this podcast isn't about, the dangers of alcohol, its bad traits, the negative effects it can have on the body. No, my mission is to help you see how life really works from the inside out, so you can have a better relationship with alcohol if you're using it to kind of numb your feelings and experiences from your job, or what you think is coming from your job. We'll get into that further. No, I'm not here to give you information about alcohol and stuff that's negative on the body. If you want that, then Andrew Huberman, someone like that, can portray that and is more qualified to portray that way better than I ever could. No, we are going to talk about how life is truly experienced from the inside out and how that can help you with alcohol, because I'm not going to insult your intelligence. You know all those things about alcohol. You know it's probably bad for you. You know it can have a negative effect on your body. And that's probably why you click this recording, because you're probably looking for something deeper, something beyond the words that is telling you that alcohol's bad for you. Because you know that, right? And you'd have limited your consumption by now if that really truly worked for you. Okay, so let's talk about alcohol and my relationship with it. So I was never particularly a big drinker when I was in my teenage years. You hear about people that had the first drink at 13, 14, whatever. I was quite a good boy as such. I waited till I was 18 years old until I was legally ethically okay to have alcohol in the UK. So I waited till I was 18, waited till my 18th birthday, and started to get into drinking from that point. Not towards being an alcoholic, I was more of a social drinker. So every week, bi-weekly, without fail, I would hit the town with my friends and we'd go out drinking. And we'd think it was really cool and think we were really grown up, as you do when you were younger. Maybe you can relate to that with your own experience. And we enjoyed it. We saw going out drinking as, social glue for us all, a lubricant to be the people we thought we wanted to be, and we obviously thought it was a great way to pick up girls. Think if you've ever seen the UK programme The In-Betweeners, think me and my friendship group as the In-Betweeners, because that's exactly what we were. We were absolutely useless in those sorts of environments, going out drinking and trying to woo women. We were terrible. Anyway, the years went on, bi-weekly, and I'd go out every other Saturday. So I wouldn't get absolutely blind out drunk, but I'd get to that point where I'd know I'd had enough and would call it a night, say 1, 2 in the morning. I would never go all the way to 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, stuff like that, and get blackout drunk. The years went by, as I say, and I met my now wife, a lady who saw something in me and wanted to marry me and be with me. And naturally, the drinking kind of stopped. The going out kind of stopped naturally. And it was never a conscious decision. It was never a conscious decision to think, oh, I'm quitting alcohol now, I'm quitting going out. It just kind of naturally happened, as it does when you get older. So I met my wife. We moved in together. We got our first flat, and the drinking didn't stop, but it certainly slowed down. Drinking when I got into a relationship became, coming home from our jobs and, saying to each other, should we pour a bottle of wine? Yeah, let's pour a bottle of wine and, get the rosé out and share a bottle of wine between us, especially on a Friday night or even a Saturday night. Not so much a school night. But that would be a weekly thing, just like going out. The drinking kind of slowed, but the frequency weirdly stayed the same. It was like we'd do that every week to 2 weeks, at least once a month. Put it that way. Now, that carried on until we got married and bought our first houses and when we had kids. And looking back, I think the reason we did that was because we thought the alcohol brought us something to give us relief from life. As you could probably relate. So, we had children, kids are really stressful, let's have a drink. Work's really stressful. You know what would sort that? Maybe a drink. I passed. I remember doing when I was a project manager. I did some exams, and I remember passing and coming back, and my wife, bless her, had a bottle of beer waiting for me to celebrate. Naturally, well, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you celebrate good times by having a drink? So you get the idea. It didn't give many excuses, good or bad, to justify having a drink. Now, 2 years ago, or 3 years, I'll go a little bit further. 3 to 4 years ago, I was mentally ill at work. I was signed off sick in 2022 for 11 weeks. Went back, thought everything was fine, and in 2024 I was signed off again for another 7 to 8 weeks or so. And a part of self-improving for myself was that I gave up alcohol. And it's coming up to, we're recording this podcast on the 25th of January, Sunday the 25th of January. I gave up alcohol on Saturday the 27th of January 2024. So in 2 days' time, this coming Tuesday on the 27th of January, I'd be 2 years sober from alcohol. Now, this is a personal choice I made to quit alcohol for good, because I read a lot of health implications about drinking alcohol, and this is my personal choice, right? This doesn't have to be this podcast isn't trying to persuade you to give up alcohol completely. This is just me. This is just my relationship with it currently. I've not had a drink for nearly 2 years now. And I can honestly say it's the best thing I've ever decided to do. There's no pressure anymore, like I said, of, having to go out drinking with friends, or when me and my wife sit down in the evening after getting the kids to bed, there's no awkward look to each other going, shall we get the bottle of vino out? Yeah, there's none of that anymore. Or shall we, shan't we? That kind of debate. There's none of that anymore, and it's quite liberating. That works for me. It might not necessarily work for you. You might need alcohol in your lifestyle. It might be the social glue. It might be something that you identify with. When you go out, you have a drink with your girl pals or with the lads on a Friday night. You finish work, you have a couple of beers. Fine. That could be you. It's not me. That's all I'm trying to say. We're all different. But let me turn the tables on this podcast recording back to you. You might have clicked on this podcast recording, because you're looking for something deeper that might help you limit your alcohol consumption, or, like me, give up for good. If that's you, I want you to keep listening to the end of this recording, if you've got the time, if you can. So, I'm going to try and paint a picture of you right now. Maybe you're someone who's at the top of your game in the corporate world. You've got this promotion. You've finally got what you wanted to be, and you maybe you're doing the job well. Maybe your employer's praising. Maybe your employer's praising you for the job you're doing. You've got the salary. You're building great relationships. If you're a salesperson, you're smashing your target. On paper, everything looks great. The only trouble is when you get in the car and you go, fucking hellfire, what just happened there? And you drive home, you get in, your spouse is cooking dinner, You're venting your frustration on your husband or your wife or your other half. And before you know it, when the kids are playing in the room and deep into conversation with your other half about the day, before you know it, next thing you know, you are halfway through your second glass of red wine of the evening. And you're not even sat down to have your evening meal yet. If you're concerned, if that's becoming a nightly habit, I can see why you might be concerned about that. Because in terms of long-term health for yourself, mentally and physically, that's probably not a good thing, right? And as I say, you might not want to give up alcohol completely like I did. You might just want to have a healthier relationship with it, and you can through understanding. Now, life works inside out. It doesn't work outside in. So in other words, stressful circumstances that are seen as stressful in our outside domains cannot have any influence on us internally. So when you truly understand that, when you really see through the cracks and crevices what I'm trying to say, the truth of that, why would it make sense for you to turn to a substance outside of you in order to quieten down something that you are bubbling with inside of you? When you truly understand that, it doesn't make sense anymore. And that's why you hear these stories of people that, were absolutely full-blown alcoholics. Apparently my granddad was, my dad's dad, he was an alcoholic. And he died when I was about, 3, 4, 5 years old. I can't remember the guy. I've only got photographs of him. But apparently he was a really, really bad alcoholic. He was nasty to my dad. He was nasty to his 6 siblings. He was nasty to my grandma, who, I'll be honest with you, when he died, life began for her at 70 because she had another 20 plus years of him not being around and not being nasty to her. She started living from her 60s and her 70s to when she died in her 90s. And with my granddad, a part of me thinks I should be annoyed at him about that, But with this understanding, I can see now that it's not his fault. He just lacked understanding of where his experiences were coming from. He couldn't tie a job down. They literally had no money. My dad grew up in a drawer. A drawer that you could pull out. That was the crib. How times have changed, yeah. This is back in the 60s in really really run down areas of Sheffield, and he just lacked understanding of where his experience was coming from, which is why he did what he did, and which is why he turned to alcohol to help him with his feelings. My dad told me one story once before I was born. My sister was born. She was a baby. She was about, 1. Him and my grandma came over, and he didn't want to see his granddaughter, my sister, and he just went to the local while my grandma enjoyed the grandchild, my sister, and he came back drunk as a skunk and was being sick everywhere. My dad just chucked him out of the house. This is all just a lack of understanding with people, and I'm telling you now that all you are going through is a misunderstanding as well. I've got good news for you. This is not your fault. It's not, if you're being seduced by your experience at work, if you're being lulled into it, if you're buying into it and turning to something that you think helps nullify that alcohol, I'm telling you now it's not your fault, and that's the great news for you. Because with understanding and taking off the blindfold that you've got over your eyes, seeing more is huge for you, because if you can see that you can have an experience that isn't personal to you, that isn't riveted to you, it sure feels that way, doesn't it? It sure feels that we are victims, we are resigned to outer circumstances and experiences that we are creating, and it's no wonder we turn to alcohol, because we think it's that is the antidote to our poison. And It's not. It's just it can be just fuel to your fire, can't it? And when you develop your understanding of how life is truly working from the inside out, how you can have an experience, good or bad, in your working day, then when you truly see that, you're free, and you won't see it as necessary to turn to a bottle of beer or a glass of wine, or something hard like a whiskey or a scotch. It's not necessary for you anymore, because you understand that that substance cannot do anything more for you, because the fluidity of internal experience of life is going to change. It's going to change for the better on its own without you having a drink. Having a drink will not help you get there. The fluidity of your internal creation will do that for you. That's huge. That's huge for you. If you can really see that. And as I say, you might not want to give up alcohol completely because you don't want to. You might want to have that glass of wine with your wife or your husband, and that way of winding down. Fine. But I know there's a lot of people out there that are suffering through chronic alcohol consumption because they think that's the only way they can cope with their experience. And it's not true, because we are the creators of what's going on inside our heads. I hope that really helps you. I hope that really helps you see how life is really working from the inside out, and that you don't need to turn to these substances to nullify your experience, because the natural nature of life will do that for you anyway. And it's true, isn't it? Because when you were a child, I'm sure there was a period when you were a child that you weren't drinking, and good and bad times were rolling naturally, because that's how life works. It's only when we become adults that we start to complicate it. We start to, oh, that was a bad day. What does that mean? Oh, she said this. What does she mean by that? Oh, work have said this. They're dragging me into a meeting on Tuesday. What does that mean for me? You know what I mean? We create stories in our mind, and it can feel out of control. It can feel out of control and feel very fast. And like I said, there's no wonder we think we need to turn to something, whether that's alcohol or sex or drugs or food. All these or social media, all these dopamine heavy things we think we need to turn to make our experience of life better. But we don't need to do that. We could just let the nature of life unfold, and that's and let the magic happen that way instead. I hope you enjoyed this solo recording about alcohol and booze. Got more of these solo recordings to come. I've got a couple more guests to come as well. So give me a follow. Stay tuned for those coming. If you've not heard my previous recordings or my previous solo recordings and previous guest recordings, check them out. I've got a full library in there for you to enjoy. I say follow me for more episodes to come, guests and solo. Follow me on Instagram. I've got a load of shorts on there if you like shorter shots of inspiration. Shots. I do pardon the pun. This episode's about alcohol after all. If you like shorter shots of inspiration, that might help you. Check those out on Instagram. Give me a follow on there. I've got a YouTube channel. I'll put that on there as well. I've got just said that. I've got a LinkedIn profile as well with lots of inspirational quotes on there too. So check that out too. I hope to, as I say, if you want to email me, feel free to do so. I've had a lot of emails already, and as I say, I'm really heartfelted, if that's a word, and humbled that you're enjoying this show and it's really helping you. Great, that's what it's all about. And yeah, I really appreciate you listening. I really do. It means the world to me that something that I only started in the summertime last year is really resonating and hitting home with people. Take care, guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye now. Bye bye.